r/AskReddit. What's the closest thing to a super? There are some people with a genetic mutation that allows them to feel fully refreshed on very little sleep. Even with a totally free schedule, they choose to sleep 4-5 hours a night. According to Insensitivity, 1% of population, I don't know if it's from US population or the world, are known to be short sleepers. They do not need to sleep much, only a few hours. I worked with someone who slept 4 hours a night, every night. It wasn't like he was out partying either. He just didn't sleep like mere mortals do. My grandpa has the ability to basically fall asleep instantly, no matter where he is and how he is positioned. He can always take a nap. It takes me at least 30 minutes to an hour every night to fall asleep, and here he is out cold in less than 5. That's a damn superpower to me. That's my secret. I'm always tired. Lol. College student, and yet that still doesn't work for me. Hell, if I'm completely exhausted I have even a harder time falling asleep. It's weird. Being born into vast wealth. And if your parents are murdered, you can become Batman. There are more than enough multi-billionaires in the world. I'm pretty upset none of them has become Batman. That thing where you see sounds and smell colors and hit like that. Synesthesia, I think it is. Then there's that blind guy who developed his own echolocation like a bat and says it's so easy that anyone, blind or not, can learn how to do it. It's called synesthesia. Yeah. Basically it's when 2 or more of your senses are connected in unexpected ways. The most common form is attributing colors to letters and numbers. For instance, for someone out there, the number 3 is blue. My favorite story is from a segment on NPR about it, where a guy told a story about how words he spoke out loud put a taste in his mouth. He actually had to break up with his girlfriend because every time he said her name, it tasted gross. Edit. As we can see from the replies I've gotten, 3 is not always blue. It's different for everyone. It's 8 PM. Let's have dinner. Lasagna. 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 The rejuvenation ability of the immortal jellyfish. In the absence of predators or mortal accidents, they don't die. They just reset their bodies and start again as babies. Planarians have excellent regeneration, but this is more of an oh no, I've been cut in half, time to regrow half my body kind of thing. Oh duck. I'm now only 1/100th of what I used to be. Time to regrow my entire duckine body. Farting at a urinal in an empty bathroom will 100% immediately summon another person from out of the blue to walk into the cloud. Yeah, I egg farted my car with this Ibs-esque fart once. It stank so bad mushrooms cold grown out of the aircon at any time. All in privacy, right? 20 seconds pass. Cue the fine looking lady police officer waving me in for a routine stop. It looked like she had hit a damn wall. I died on the inside twice that day. Where do you live that the police do routine traffic stops? That gut feeling of something's not right. Close street to a Spidey sense we've got. I had a captain, I work on ships, explain it as a chronic unease about something. If something is bugging you and you can't pinpoint it, delay and operation and double or triple check stuff. He has given examples on how it has saved his ass from something potentially very bad happening. Today I was walking with an enchilada in Tupperware and almost took the lid off to take a bite, but decided I should wait until I was sitting, and then I missed a step and dropped the container, so I'm familiar with such high stakes. I have 20/14 vision. I have to admit that I have cheated while playing pub trivia because I can see the answers on nearby tables. I've had people ask how I write code with such a small font size. To see more lines. Obviously, I'm 20/15. I once guessed a number between 1 and 100 on the second try. Sign me up for the Avengers. I once guessed somebody's birthday on the first try. I don't guess birthdays anymore to maintain my 100% record. Had something similar. When I played ear pong for the first time back in college I went 8-0. I retired that night from ear pong. Being really ridiculously good looking. I've only met one person in my life that when I saw them, it was literally like a halo around their face. So damn beautiful. I went from being my normal easygoing self to stuttering and sweating in half a second. I went from being my normal easygoing self to stuttering and sweating in half a second. For me this is called going out. Whatever LeBron James is doing right now. That guy is making some of the top athletes in the world look average. And I hate the Cavs. He's still yelling at Junior Smith. Yeah, seriously. I love JR's antics as they are usually harmless. Jacks up a 30-footer when they are up by 18 in the fourth. etc. But this one cost them a finals game on the road. I really feel bad for LeBron. The guy has now spent a decade shouldering the Cavs. Any other team. And he'd have twice as many championships. There's a condition called SIPA or congenital insensitivity to pain where you just don't feel pain. However, you realize once looking into this condition. It sucks not to feel pain because you could literally break something and not feel it. There was a girl I read about who actually broke her back and didn't even know. She went to her parents and said her back felt weird, and after going to the doctor found out it was broken. It's really a crazy condition. Also, touching something extremely hot and not feeling it would cause some real damage. I forgot how many times in my school cafeteria I would touch that metal thing where they kept the food warm and immediately be like, holy hit. Now imagine you don't feel your hand burning and just leave it there for several seconds until you notice your skin is literally melting. It would still feel hot, just not painful. Like if you cut your finger you would get the feeling a knife is cutting you, but no pain. Perfect pitch maybe? Superpower isn't right, but it's a ducking cool ability. It's pretty much self-explanatory, but basically some people are born naturally being able to pull accurate pitches out of thin air. So you say, give me a 100th number and they could sing it right back. You can learn relative pitch with a lot of work, but that requires at least a starting reference note to be played. It's a genuinely cool thing that is often co-opted by annoying high school choir kids faking it to try to impress people. I always questioned how real it was, but there's an internet video floating around of some kid sitting at a piano with his grandfather/uncle, and the guy keeps giving the kid combinations of notes on the piano, and without looking, could discern the notes and sing them back to the guy. Like 100% accuracy. Was very wholesome. The insane thing was that he was given a load of note clusters and he could still discern the notes. This meant that he could hear through all of the overtones, which are very audible within that range, and hear the fundamental pitches. Even I would have to train my ears pretty hard in order to hear that. Being able to persuade and influence other people. Been Gesserit Witch. Fear the voice. Lucid dreaming. Never been close to doing it, but envious of those who can. Sounds like you can literally have any superpower. As someone who often lucid dreams, it's kind of boring. If you try to do too much, the dream kind of falls apart and you wake up. I mainly use it to rewind some part of the dream that didn't quite play out how I wanted. I mostly just use it to have really awesome wet dreams that are like 98% realistic simulations of having X. Charisma. Look at any cult leader. They can weave these super obvious, to us, lies that encapsulate people so much, so that they worship the leader. Even sacrificing their own well-being for the leader's sake. Giving money, time, free labor, children. There is no power quite like a private army being willed with words. Adolf Hitler was a tragic example of this. He was like a real-life supervillain. I see him, and all other villains. I'm not a Nazi, as a role model. They are usually people who are so driven to achieve one thing, that they give everything for that one thing. Madness? What madness? Empaths. People who grew up in hit situations are usually more aware of other people's moods, and recognize and respond to very small cues. It can be a hit ability. Sometimes you're better off not knowing. Yes, it is. I remember being in a hotel with friends, getting ready for a night out, and reading a newspaper article about a little boy that was systematically tortured and murdered. I called my mom, bawling my eyes out. I couldn't get that image out of my head for weeks. I didn't sleep. It took forever to let it go. I've realized that being on antidepressants for 7+ years has helped immensely with the overactive empathy I have. Muscular hypertrophy. Affected people naturally grow far more muscle mass than normal while having significantly less body fat. And the muscle that does grow tends to be stronger than normal. In humans, it rarely comes with negative side effects either. About the only concerns are that when infants and toddlers the affected individual gets enough fat in their diet for proper brain development, and that they have few reserves if they get sick. But beyond that they're usually just super jacked people who don't have to work at it at all. We need to find the cause of this, so we can just turn it on in everybody and we can all be Captain America. Lol. There is a guy from my hometown that has this. It only affects one of his arms though. One arm is massive. The other is normal size for a 6 feet 2 inches 200-pound guy. He is a cool person, unless you make masturbation jokes. Having a feeling that someone is looking at you. There was an interesting article about that. Recently, our brains create a 360-degree picture of the world around us. It just fills in the parts we aren't physically seeing. Which is why we can often sense something/someone behind us. It's probably an evolutionary response, I would assume, since the ones who survived primitive times had to be aware of their surroundings. Being a savant. Came here to say this. I've known 2 people during my almost 50 years on this planet, whom I would call a true genius. Intelligence and ability beyond what any smart person possesses. I don't know if they were savants. I don't even know how you can truly quantify that. But both were gifted beyond belief. I've got my master's in engineering, and I consider myself a pretty sharp guy. But these 2 simply put me in awe. I have a magnet in my finger, so I can tell if the speaker is on. Not that cool. Edit. I can do more than that too. If you want more info, especially in TXHMU. Why you got a magnet in there? To see if a speaker is on. Exoskeletons actually exist. Iron Man is but a matter of time. Right? Time and like literally billions of dollars on R&D. Although the arc reactor is fantasy. Oh come on. How expensive are tinfoil and staples? Photographic memory. Domestication. While you sleep, you can hear and smell intruders approaching in the dark. And you can prowl through the barn killing the mice that will threaten your harvest. You can travel at inhuman speeds. You can trample your enemies. You can move boulders, plow fields, carry tons of goods. You can take a fallow field and from it harvest eggs, steak, milk, wool. You shape the weeds into swelling, into bursting with fruit. You break the pattern of growth to create a new life beholden to your own. From the mysterious rhythms of nature you call forth a song and weave it to your liking. You were once a small part of the world, subject to it, forced to listen, to be passive. You are now a prince, taking from your subjects and giving to them in return. You dictate, you command, you harvest, you shape the world itself. You can hide in a box and scratch newspaper pellets over it, then lick Uranus on the couch just as company arrives. Practically Superman. /r/knock and text. Night vision is readily available to civilians in the United States. It's expensive, but it's a superpower you can literally just buy. Seeing in the dark. It's awesome. What about super hearing? Cartoons and spy movies made me believe you could get these microphones on a satellite dish that would allow you to spy on neighbors. They are called parabolic microphones, and they are in wide use. If you look for them, you can see them at a ton of big sporting events, so that they can catch some of the chatter and sounds of the game on the field/court/whatever without having to put a body mic on every single person to catch them individually. I once dated a guy with a photographic memory in high school. It was frustrating because he was able to ace tests without studying because he could literally pull out exact passages from books or remember exact mathematical formulas and problems. Now that I think about it, he wasn't all that intelligent because he never applied himself. He just remembered everything in school, but never tried to do anything with this ability. He cheated by copying the answers into his brain. In some ways that's a joke, but perhaps not. If your brain spends too much time remembering things verbatim, it might not have energy left for understanding and creativity. It might be almost as bad for your mental development as copying the answers. Whatever the opposite of being an albino is. Melanism. I read about this recently. It doesn't occur in humans, but I did learn that black panthers are actually just jaguars with melanism. Neat. Blind people using echolocalization. Echolocalization in general is a great superpower. Now I wonder if Toph's super sense of touch can happen in real life. Mathematics. One of the most basic skills we must learn is how to predict. From video games to physical simulations. We can predict the world around us, or create new worlds entirely. We can calculate where things will be before they get there, and find out where they were thousands of years ago. From predicting eclipses to the technology you're using right now. Mathematics is the basis of human culture and civilization. Mathematicians are tiny gods. But my opinion is questionable. Former NFL guard John Urschel is obtaining his PhD in mathematics from MIT and would publish papers during his seasons. That hit is straight up insane. I'm pretty sure I have Spidey senses. I know when certain events are gonna turn for the worse. Example. I was at a car race and had a looming feeling of something about to happen. Think anxiety times 1000. 5 minutes later a race car wrecks and starts flipping. The car then takes out the fence in the front of the stands and injures several people. Also, without anything wrong in our relationship, I knew the last time I saw my ex was the last time we would be together. Also had the same feeling in the middle of the night a few years ago. I checked on everyone in my house. When I went into the baby's room he had rolled over and had his face smothered in the blankets. I don't really believe in premonition. But hard to deny that feeling when I get it. I have a ton of situations like this. There is something called gut feeling. Many people have this kind of feeling in different situations. Many of them, I'd say almost everyone, are feeling uncomfortable, but can't really say why. Some science studies say that this is your unconscious speaking. Agreed, I think it's probably just our brains being more clever than we can comprehend. The amount of data that our brains process every second is unfathomable. So I don't think it's so far-fetched that our brains could sense when things are about to go wrong. Maybe he noticed that something was wrong with one of the cars. Subconsciously, maybe he heard his baby in distress just before they started being smothered. Maybe he picked up on unconscious signals that his girlfriend was giving off. Obviously, none of these were picked up as a conscious thought. But his brain still knew. Or maybe he has superpowers. Who knows?